Good morning to all the people that managed to join us at this early hour. It feels great to be back here. It was exactly a year ago on this stage where we met and then extended our family, and we'll talk a little bit about that today and hopefully share with you. And I love the fact that you've already branded us a success story. We'd love to be one, but this is really, hopefully, a road to success. And what we want to do today and this morning is share with you what we've been up to this past year. And if anybody knows me and has heard me on these stages before, I always warn it's a very, very lengthy, long, convoluted process to get any of these shows made. And this is just our first year. If we do things right, it'll be about 4 years until we can show you any tape. Realistically, it'll be about 5. So join us on this road to success, and we'll reshare, what we've been up to with everyone. But let's start. Milena.
Yes.
There's let's see. All right, we're gonna click a little bit.
Front page.
But we made some slides. We wanted this to hopefully be educational and an open conversation a little bit. Hopefully this works. We haven't tried it before, or not. Oh, there we go.
We need the first picture.
Okay, here we
Front
go.
Picture.
There we. Oh wait. This is the all right.
The front picture.
This is the front. So we're here to talk about World won the NEM Writing Award last year.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what is the show about? We'll start from that.
Well, I can say, first of all, this story is very related to me. It's based on the true story, inspired by true story. And I carried this story with me throughout my life, since I'm coming from the city that is close to this village, Sirogojno. And I wanted to bring this story to the world. But let's say it takes the place of the 3 decades from the 16th until the 90s in socialist Yugoslavia, where the visionary female entrepreneur gathers the village housewives to start a knitting business. But socialist Yugoslavia wasn't ready for this kind of revolution, so they had to fight tradition, politics, and patriarchy in order to create the world-famous brand of Sirogojno sweaters. This is very kind of personal story, and I wanted the world to know about the story. But most of all, I wanted the younger generation to be familiar how great and fantastic brand we had in Serbia, but also in former Yugoslavia. And it started from the very small place, but it became very successful worldwide. And it's a story about emancipation. It's about empowerment, empowering women. But it also, I want to entertain with this series. I want to make funny, to deal with the nostalgia, and also to be a quirky.
Great. And that idea brought you here last year.
Yes.
Which is where.
But the first step for me, I wanted to feel. Does everybody feel like I feel? I mean, I wanted to feel how people are related with this story, and first of all, the region. So I said that I carried this story throughout my life, but the idea came up during Sarajevo Film Festival when I spoke with the now head writer, Matija Dragojević, and we decided to be like a series, to tell this story through a series. So we start investigating, and then he started writing, and we apply for NEM, Pitching Forum. And we were selected, and then we pitched here, and we won prize.
There
and
you are pitching.
I connected with you as well.
Well, first you pitched.
Yes. Let's see.
And
here, this is from the last year.
Yeah, and then you won, and then I waited patiently until you won, and I accosted you outside.
Yes.
In the which is kind of what you hope, I think, when you come to these things. And it is very important to get out there, to meet people, to tell your story, because you never know who's in the audience. Even if it's a small audience, you never know. And you never know who you're going to meet. And this is, I do a lot of these, I guess, festivals or conferences and lectureships, and I read a lot of material, and that's exactly why. And when people say, why do you spend all this time? I go, because you never know what you're going to discover. We're also producers ourselves, and we're also looking for great talent and enthusiastic people who can tell a story, and hopefully it's a great story. And that's what happened. And then
Yes.
I ran to you.
This is us pitching, and this is us. You gave me this beautiful award. And then we continue and went to Berlinale.
Yep. And from there, I kind of said, do you want a producer?
Yeah, but we have to say that the story is organically connected with Iceland.
Yeah.
And
then when we sat down to talk, you said, this is the story. And also, I didn't get to it on the pitch, but it's also an Icelandic story. And I said, perfect. I know an Icelandic company.
Yes.
That's where you guys come in.
Right.
And then
We have another slide, I think. Yes, this is our actually.
this is like the worst picture of me ever.
I don't know. The designer picked this one. This is
God,
Hordur
he must really hate me.
from Act 4.
So it started here. The pitch was great. I connected to you. As soon as you said Iceland, I said you have to meet some friends. This is where you guys come in.
Right.
Yep.
And you
What
met
happened
Hörður, our founding partner of Act 4 in Berlinale. And it might seem odd to many of you that there is a co-production with Iceland on this Serbian series about knitting in the 60s. But there is, without going too deeply into the story, there is a very organic connection because the Zero Goino company sourced their wool from Iceland, made a huge agreement on wool exports from Iceland.
The best wool in the world.
Oh, yes, the greatest wool in the world.
Up until nowadays, yeah.
And I mean, for us to, be presented with this wonderful project happening in Serbia with an organic co-pro connection to Iceland, what more can you ask for? It was great, and to be doing this with Danna and Milena.
Well, I'll tell you what more you can ask for is an LOI.
Right.
Yeah. Which we got from Telecom.
So
Serbia,
I will say this, one of the most important things when you set out to do a television show is to have a television station. Because that's what defines a television show.
Yeah.
You don't do it independently, you don't do it for theatrical, you don't do it to show your friends, and you don't do it to post on YouTube or TikTok. You actually do it for a broadcaster. And I remember, and I said to you, before we go to Berlinale, before we meet potential co-production partners.
Yes, I need somebody from my region to be like that. People actually from here recognize the story, which is local story. So luckily, again at NEM, people from Telecom Serbia were here, and they were listening about the project, and they really liked the project. So I set up the meeting at Berlinale, and we agreed about first step LOI, which is a good step because that gives you opportunity to talk further on with other partners. And that's only the first step, which also helped us applying for media fund, which we'll talk more during the next
And just to be clear, an LOI doesn't, both parties in this case, it just means the letter of interest or intent. So that means a broadcaster thinks it's a good idea. Obviously, there's not a lot of material. This is pre-development. They haven't read the Bible. They don't know how much it costs. They don't know when it's going to be ready. All these other things. But there's certainly enough there for them to say that is potentially interesting. With that in hand, and the win, and you, and a natural Icelandic storyline, what happens next?
Right. We start working together.
Well,
Actually, first, we haven't met. After Berlinale, we got connected online.
Yeah.
And sign the contract.
We did, and I believe we spoke at some point of Danna of having set a world record in such good and positive energy that it was a world record in the time of making a co-pro. It was a very, very easy and an enjoyable experience because we just loved the project, and we of course loved the people we were working on it with. I'd never met Milena, but only online, but we seemed to be on the very same wavelength, and so we entered into a co-pro and are now co-developing it together.
Yes, but I have to say, which is really important here regarding co-production, it's not only like financing things. It's really about creative and having somebody on board to very early stage, especially when we're talking about making the whole episode in Iceland. You really need a creative part from your co-production partner, and to be included in the writer's room, involved in the writer's room, which you can tell more about it, I'm sure.
So the writer's room itself is a mix of Serbian and Icelandic. And how's that working out? In Berlin, by the way, of all places.
Mattia is based in, the head writer, he's based in Berlin. And he first started working with Maya Peck in the writer's room. And then you joined them at some point.
And I've actually, to be honest, it's going great. And it's a lot of fun for us. I mean, we are both writers, me and Jónas. And it's been a lot of fun for us to step into, because you had already found Mattia and you had already started development, and then we got to sit down. We've mostly done it online. And to be honest, I felt like my role was mostly just to cheer and support the writers who were already in the story. And now, at this moment, the writer's room is mostly 3 people, me, Mattia and Stasia.
Stasia Baez, who joined us in the meantime,
Yeah, and Mattia and Stasia, they have, of course, like most writers, they have different strengths, but they know the region. I can step in as a storyteller and also the voice of someone who will see the show from a different perspective, who doesn't know the region, doesn't know the story, so I can.
But it's so helpful, I must say, when we are in the writer's room, because you think that you know some things, and it's so obvious. But then when somebody who is coming out of that region and reads that and asks questions, then you realize that maybe you haven't explained enough. And that's helpful, having you in the writer's room in that sense. But also it's helpful, like for the Icelandic part of the story, is like having somebody who really knows that place.
And I can already tell that it's going to be a really interesting story, because I'm so interested in the writer's room, asking all these questions and trying to figure out, like, because it's a story about women who are, you know, breaking barriers by knitting sweaters. But when you go through the story, you learn a lot about former Yugoslavia, and so I've been the voice in the room saying, guys, you have to explain this better, because that's actually.
And also girls, when you say
and girls,
and girls.
Guys meaning boys and girls.
No. In this capacity, it is important to say, because it is a female perspective.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it is important, and it will be important to have female voices and writers.
Absolutely. But it's and
maybe I can be sometimes annoying, because I'm also in the writer's room.
Oh yeah, I can talk about that as well, because. Yeah, and that's been important, because Milena has already done it's your story in a way. So you've done a lot of research kind of your entire life, but also after you started working on this. And that's been like challenging, but interesting to try to get your voice onto the page.
Because I'm not the writer. It's important to say.
Yeah, so we've been like, we're just in the middle of the journey, and it's fun.
We're in the start of the journey?
Yeah, in the start of the journey.
Yeah, not the middle yet, but Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. But this is kind of where we are. So we started early development, put the room together, used some of the funds, the co-production funds that everybody contributed to fund this, because you're also asking yourself, how do you fund 3 writers living in Berlin, doing this? So this is how. And then since we had a natural European co-production, really inherent both story and financially, and from a pure production play, we decided to do what? And submitted to
Media Fund.
To the Creative Media Fund.
Yes, which I said I think we should talk more about, and you should come at 3 o'clock at our panel where we talk more about the Media Fund and how we did that part. But that it was also challenging, and we got support that way. But also we, besides,
well, we should say that we got the full funding.
Full funding.
Because again, it ticks a lot of these great boxes when you're looking at these things, and a lot of when you're going to be doing your financial plan, you're going to say, oh, I'll apply to this fund or that fund. You have to understand, does the project qualify? Does it make sense for it? And you'll talk about it this afternoon, but the prerequisite for the media funding is to have at least 2 European co-production partners. And that's something a lot of people, just kind of gloss over.
Yeah.
And it has to make sense, and it has to be in the right state. And in the end, all of these funds, and again, you'll talk about it this afternoon, want to give money to projects they think are going to make it onto air.
Yes.
Of course.
And getting support from the media fund is also really good for the writers' room and us, just to get a pat on the back. Somebody out there saying, guys, keep going. I know this is...
And we can pay you.
Yeah, we can pay you. We're with you.
But keep going.
It's really...
But
it's important.
The process itself, it's long. It's really marathon. I mean, first you have research, interviewing people, then you have writer's room, then you write something, then you go back, and it's a long process, and it should be like that if you want to make something that you're really keen to making it. So that is something which might not be usual in my region, to take that amount of time for development.
And in tandem with the creative development, there's also a strategy being developed that has to do with the budget, the marketing, the positioning.
Absolutely. Because of the length of time that it takes to create a great television series, I feel that, it's very important to pick your co-productions well, and not only to look at the project. Of course, this is a great project.
Then I'll show some more pictures of us having fun.
But it's about the people as well, because you're embarking on a journey that's going to take, a few years. And, things will get rough along the way. And, during that, you want to make sure that the people joining you are people that you trust and that you want to work with. And, you can make it to the goal in the marathon together. And I think that's just as important as the quality of the story.
So let's talk about, what's coming up.
Sure.
So we've talked about, the first year of getting a story together, finding the right co-production partners, signing a co-production agreement, doing enough development to be able to submit to get more funding, using that funding to further develop, and then where do you take it from here?
Right. We're in development right now, and at a certain point in development, you're gonna take it to market, right? You're going to meet with potential broadcasters or streamers. We, of course, will work with you intensively on that, Danna. We feel that we're going to be able to do that next year.
Yes, we're thinking about applying, for serious money, obviously.
So I do want to say, during this process, obviously, you start out with a rough budget, and then as you kind of work through and realize what the story is going to need, but also what you can probably raise, you have a more workable budget.
Yeah.
And that's what you start taking to the market in tandem with the creative.
Yeah, you have to have a pretty clear vision, and not only a vision, but actual information on it, on the financials of the entire show, the people doing it, and the story you're going to tell. It has to be a very clear vision, because you're basically, you're selling something that hasn't been made yet. So, you want to have a clear vision of what it is to be able to present it to someone.
But regarding budget, it's also a tricky part, because this story takes place of the 3 decades, and mostly in the village, which is completely changed nowadays. So we did location scouting. We potentially found another village which we will build up as like older version. So it takes time also for the accurate budget in that sense. So
and especially if you're going to be filming outside of a place that you're normally used to producing in. So in this case, who knows in this room how much it is to shoot in Iceland? Only the Icelandics.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot, I can tell you that.
And then there's a plan that we are going to shoot like in Sirogoin, obviously, then hopefully in Esplanada, because one of the fashion shows happened right here. Then Paris, and then Iceland, and then again.
All very expensive locations, people.
To Sirogoin.
Even the French don't shoot Paris for Paris, you know that.
She has? Sorry?
You don't, even the French producers don't shoot Paris for Paris anymore.
I know. We will fake some of the parts.
But the point is, when you start talking to potential investors or buyers, whether it's distributors or channels or streamers, you want to have a budget. If you're asking people to contribute to that budget, if you're going to a pre-buy, for example, you have to know what your budget is and you have to stick to it. That's why this part of it is as important as the creative
Absolutely.
development.
Absolutely. And to know the right time to bring it to those buyers, not to bring it too early, but to bring it when you actually have a clear vision of what it is you're offering, and that you can quite confidently assess the finances of what it's going to be and what you're asking from that partner. I think that's really important to hold off until that point in development. But we're slowly but surely getting there now. So that's as I see you've brought up the tentative 24-25 slides. That's the next exciting part of the journey, right?
So let's talk about the next stage. What is coming up?
So in purpose, as you can see, directors attached. So we would like to have like scripts ready, at least some of the drafts, to be able to bring directors on board. And then it's very important, like casting is very important here. And it will take a lot of time, what we're going to do with the casting, since we're talking about 30 years. That's regarding creative part.
I can speak a little bit to this creative part, because now we're writing, we almost have a draft of a pilot and outline for the story, and then we're going to work more on that. And soon we'll have a first draft of the entire show. And what's probably important, or in my experience, what always happens is that this first draft will keep on changing a lot throughout all the development. So, in my view, it's important to get through the first draft to be able to take the next steps. Meanwhile, while we can start financing and building plans and getting directors on board. So we'll keep on changing the story and drafts until we go.
So to clarify, it's not as if development ends and then the financing begins. Exactly. You just get to the correct point in the development where you can confidently say what it's about and what it's going to be like, and then those two things will happen in tandem from there on. Exactly. The development will continue, as well as of course the
and hopefully the creative co-production part will continue after the writings. In a production sense. So I truly hope that we will mix the people, creative people from both countries.
And considering the budget of the show, or the estimated budget of the show, which is obviously more than both your markets can sustain.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
from a local broadcaster
Yes.
perspective. So whether it's
Totally.
a local Icelandic broadcaster and a local Serbian or regional broadcaster, that essentially means that you have to go out and find more money, right? And that can come from, like we just said, more channels. So usually for a project like this, it would be a European pre-buy with one of the bigger markets, I would say, only because they're more used to co-producing. So Germany, France would be the normal kind of targets that we would look at. Also from a narrative perspective, the themes in the show, right? And from an audience, where would this ideally sit? But also these are countries that are used to co-producing and have the finances in place, but they will also then demand a creative input.
Yeah.
Of course.
And there has to be room for that to consider.
And that's challenging, I think.
It's part of the process.
Yes,
It is.
And can be helpful as well.
And also, as much as we have those kind of meetings during the writer's room and asking questions between ourselves and be specific in the things and be secure about the story, then it's easier, I'm sure, later on when the broadcasters and other financiers come on board.
And if it's not the broadcasters, or it's the broadcasters and another type of financier, and with broadcasters I also mean streamers in that sense, and I think it would be great if we could attach a streamer, but the market keeps changing. If we were sitting here, I know 3 years ago in the happy days of 2021, where everything was getting bought by streamers, and putting out globally, we'd be sitting here thinking, oh, we have a streaming show, and now we're like, maybe a streamer takes a second window in whatever territory. So we're realistic, and that's something very important when you're building your plans, is to know where the market is at any given point of time, because if you're building a strategy that's based on something that's not current, you're going to find a huge gap in what you need versus what the market can give. So that's why I'm putting kind of the streaming opportunities as a nice surprise if it happens,
Right.
but not a strategy.
Very well could be.
So more back to the traditional kind of local broadcasters as co-production partners, and also, of course, distributors, which are a major part of what is defined as a co-production. A lot of the co-productions that you hear about are really co-productions with distributors who are coming on board as co-financiers with an advancement, a minimum guarantee into the production. They will want a creative voice, and then help either attach more buyers as a pre-buy or wait until the show is finished and take it out to market, hoping to make their money from distribution and sales. But all these elements are both financially, obviously, money costs money.
Correct.
That's something to remember. And also a creative input of all these partners.
Yeah.
So these are conversations we're about to
Embark on.
to start. I don't see any distributors in the room.
So we can
will
talk
find
freely.
We will. Sorry, I can't laugh because I'll start coughing.
Sorry, Danna.
But that's kind of where we are. So what is the plan for the next year?
For the next
Year.
year, sure.
How do we attract, these buyers, and
Yeah.
we're taking the show on the road?
We're taking, of course, there are different opinions on how to do this, whether you should take the show on the road and run around all markets and pitch it in 20-minute meetings back to back throughout the whole day. I know Danna is not fond of that, neither am I, to be honest. Of course, being in good contact with the market, showing up at all of these.
But you also spoke with Ruf.
Sure. Of course, we've sort of gauged the interest of the Nordic buyers and the Icelandic.
Because they like knitting.
And they love knitting. Well, I mean, who doesn't love knitting? And
Knitting is the future thing. It's fasting and the future
it's a
thing.
huge industry.
But you kind of laugh it off. But initially, and I can say this when we did the submission,
Yeah.
we did actually cross-reference what countries knitting was popular in to see who our potential pre-buys were. And I would urge you to do that in whatever show you have, whatever the main themes are, to really see if you can target certain elements in the show for specific markets. And I can tell you, if this doesn't sell in Norway, we are not doing our job, because they're huge on knitting. Not only do they love knitting, they actually have a slow channel dedicated to people knitting. You can YouTube it right now. People 24/7 sitting and knitting. So these are important things when you're putting these plans together and you're deciding, who are we targeting and who are the buyers. This is important information to know. Do the extra work, and in our case, find out where knitting is strong.
Because when it's brought to us, the project, knitting's just such a huge thing in the Nordics, okay? To us, it's like, why hasn't there been a show on this already? This is not...
Because we take for granted.
There's nothing quirky about it to us.
That's something why this brought me as an idea to bring it to the world. My grandmother knit all her life, and I truly took it for granted. I mean, most of our grandmothers from this region knit, I'm sure. And that was something like, okay, she's knitting because we need a sweater, whatever. It's not we didn't notice that as an art, as a skill. And now when I'm thinking about that, I feel I regret. And this is my way to build a monument to these women.
And by the way, when you said I'm against, pitching and doing these 20-minute meetings, telling what your story is, I'm against trying to condense the minute details of a story into a pitch meeting. I am all for doing what you just did and make it personal and make it important and make it resonate. And I think that's the difference of having a successful pitch meeting. And
I completely agree. I didn't finish my thought there. Sorry about that. But to me, it's about knowing, what potential buyer or partner, streamer, broadcaster, your project will fit. It's about being in that connection with the market. That once you have a project, you know where to bring it, and you can sit down with the people that you know and say, listen, I think it would be great to do this one together, not only from the mindset of financing the show and getting all the money, but also because, there are going to be comments, as we just talked about. And when you have the right buyer, in that sense, those comments can be really, really helpful in structuring the show. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that when we've been very fortunate with partners, be it streamers or broadcasters, those are some of the best comments on structure on a series we've ever received. So I think that's very important too.
So don't, if you're looking for advice, when you're at that stage, when you're ready to bring on more partners, where you know how much your show is going to cost and what the key creative, outview is, do the research. Find out what markets make sense, both from a financial perspective, but also from a programming perspective. Find out about your commissioners. Find about the people that you meet. Google them, and you might find, like in one of our cases, that one of the commissioners is actually a knitter herself. So these things are very helpful when you go into those meetings. They're going to be much more beneficial for you if there is that common ground than just going into this cold call meeting and giving the story from start to end.
And it's the same, I think, as in, what I spoke about a bit earlier about finding the partnership for co-production. The same goes for a broadcaster or a streamer or a buyer. Once you sign the paper, you're in it together, and it's still a long and winding road ahead until the premiere, and you're going to be working with those people along the way. So, pick well. That's what I'm saying.
But it's also a matter like, do we see the same story in which we, and that's when we are in the writer's room, when we're talking about. For me personally, it's very important to bring what is the essence of my country. Like underneath story, basically, but also what is the essence of Icelandic of Iceland, during that period of time. And I think that's something that can be very interesting to work around.
Yeah. Obviously,
And that's
we
why
weren't
you
born
have-
then, but
Very much.
That's why you have those questions, when we were doing
Yeah.
the writer's room, and they say, no, that wasn't happening in former Yugoslavia. We weren't
Exactly.
living like that, yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes. So we've had these moments when I want to tell a different story, and you have to tell me like, no, Birkir, this is not a superhero show or something. And that's nice. I mean, that's also the strength. Those are the strengths of good co-productions or co-operations. That you're allowed to have stupid ideas, and somebody will come to you and say, "Hey, great idea. I hope you will do better next time."
But your questions also challenge us.
Of course, yeah.
So
That's just a part of the game. And as you said, at some point, a broadcaster or streamer will come on board and start.
And at some point, a producer is going to say, enough in the room.
Of course, yeah.
We need to take it out.
Yeah.
We need to test it outside of what we think
Exactly.
works.
And then, hopefully, somebody from a broadcaster will come into the room and have some notes. And then it's great if we've had all these discussions before and found our common ground, because then we'll know what we're doing and we'll bring him or her on board. Which...
And also, just to be fair, those conversations are both creative but also financial. And that takes a really, really long time. I think what we're showing here is a very optimistic version of us being able to go out and finance. And actually, a lot of these finances, especially in a pre-buy situation, they kind of masquerade themselves as a co-production, but financially, they're really, you get paid pretty much on delivery or almost in production, which means there's also a lot of financial bankrolling, like cash flowing involved that you need to be prepared for.
Yeah.
You need to know that a lot of these things, when you talk, people think you're just going to get a whole pile of money whenever you sign the deal.
no, I've never seen that happen.
No.
The money's not just wired. Of course, you have to, again, once you get to the point in development where you can, with confidence, budget the show and make a nice cash flow plan, you have to be able to foresee with a good amount of time ahead of you how you're going to cash flow the show. And there are, a lot of great options to do that. There are banks that provide for it, both local and then pan-European. Some incentives, I know, help out with that. With the
There's
rebate.
also currency issues to think about when you're producing in different countries with different denominations and currencies.
Absolutely. We have a very small currency in Iceland, and some of the money coming in will be in Icelandic kroner, some of the money coming in will be in euros, so you have to cash flow in two different currencies. All these, small but really important things to think about and plan ahead, because if you finance the show correctly and you have a good product, it's not going to be an issue. It's just going to take a little time, but if you don't take the time to do it, it's going to be a big issue.
And luckily enough, we do have European funds. And now Euroimage is launched the fund for a series, which they will talk about more later on in the panel. So that's helpful for sure, and especially from the countries like my.
It's almost impossible today to do a show out of Europe that's not in the English language, that doesn't have public funding. And that's very important to know as part of anybody's, and I think hopefully everybody recognizes that. But that is very, very important, and it's almost impossible to do without a whole host of broadcasters and a very tight financing plan. So ideally, this is what we're going to be doing this year. We're going to be back out on the road in February, starting to meet with potential co-production partners. And I would, again, strategically, we talked about Germany and France, and I think that's the right place to do it. We've submitted to Series Mania for more visibility.
Yep.
and publicity and opportunities to do outreach to the market.
Yeah, I think this was really good place to sense the region, and obviously we all got connected here. And then from my point of view, and we discussed about that, I think Series Mania is the good next step to apply internationally to present
Or European.
project, European, yeah. And I think I wouldn't go into many pitching forums. There was also one Balkan pitching forum, which we won the prize as well, organized by Media Fund from the Croatian Media Fund, Media Desk. And
But I agree. I mean, in our plan, we will, after Series Mania, take a break and hopefully close some of the financing partners throughout the summer. And that's our plan.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Our realistic plan.
a realistic plan.
Yeah.
And then,
Well, then we're just gonna.
Yes, so hopefully we will close by the end of next year. Like this is like really
This is an ideal scenario.
ideally that everything goes by the plan, and then hopefully we will get into the prep in the spring 2025. But when I say that we closed everything, that means that we have casting, that we also the idea is to bring authors like a production designer who is already involved into the process, because she's one of the crucial people writing-wise. I mean, looking for the places where we're going to shoot, and that really helps in the writing process. Then costume designer here is a very essential person. So hopefully we will have those people during next year and get into the not only prep, but also developing process. And that's something which is not common. Usually people don't bring that early stage. Production designer, DOP.
but it's all about the look of the show.
Yes,
Because
but
you want
it
to
is
make
about-
it authentic.
This show really needs that. And then hopefully we'll be in prep in spring 2025 in order to start shooting first in Sirogoino, and then we will go to Iceland and maybe Paris, we'll see. There's
Or Prague.
Or Prague. There's not much in Paris, but at least one or two scenes. And then we will come back in Sirogoino, because when you need to cover like 4 seasons. Hopefully we'll still have 4 seasons in the future.
Well, you want to wear sweaters in the
Yeah, and you want
in the
sweaters.
winter.
But also it's 3 decades. You can't show it in 1 season.
So it is going to be a pretty long shoot, and hopefully we'll be here next winter to give you kind of a breakdown about the actual where we are on financing.
If you're still interested to hear about
Where we are on the financing, did we care? It feels good to kind of say it out here, because I feel we're committed to getting our financing in place.
I feel like they will hold us accountable to the plan that we're presenting.
And then we'll come back and say,
now.
first year we did development, we got the funding for the development, we put the co-production together. Second year we went out, we did our financing, we've got our other partners on board, starting the department heads, making sure, the creative elements are there, and looking hopefully to a shooting schedule. And then the year after, we'll be here with a show.
Yeah.
To premiere.
That's very.
That's a very,
I feel like if we say it out loud, it must be true.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But can I say just really quick, because we said it before, and I think it's worth mentioning again, that because as you can see, it's quite a long journey, and this is best case scenario. If everything goes according to plan, it's 4 years. When did you have the idea?
2022.
Yeah. So
Summer 2022.
it's a long time, and we said it before, and you said it, I think. It's quite important to pick people that you like spending time with, because you're going to spend a lot of time with.
You're going to be having a lot of dinners together.
Yeah, and we've been having fun, and I'm actually, I
we
wish
danced a lot.
I wish we had put more images of us just
Dancing.
being together.
Dancing,
because,
yeah.
mostly dancing, because that's what. It's a huge part of it, and
dancing.
dancing,
Yeah.
and Me
dancing,
and Jónas.
dancing. Okay, we're coming off like
Yeah.
ridiculous. Dancing in the sense that we formed a bond, I would say,
Yeah.
and a friendship,
Yeah.
and a trust,
Exactly.
which is the only way to do this because you're dealing with a lot of emotion, people's ideas, their dreams, their hopes,
Exactly.
their money,
Yeah.
their expertise, their reputations.
Yeah.
These are all things that everybody's putting into this big pot
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you're co-producing
Yeah.
together.
Huge
And
responsibility.
and it's a huge responsibility in all of our parts,
Exactly.
which is where dancing comes in.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah, it definitely. It maybe sounds a bit foolish, but dancing, but exactly. And just to finish my train of thought, because we've had partnerships that have been quite difficult, and it takes a lot of toll. It's really difficult because it's such a long time. So, I just want to get that across.
No, and I think it's a very important, and when you are considering, and if you are fortunate enough to have a choice of choosing your partners, don't choose by the name of the company, don't choose by the letterhead or somebody's title, because those come and go. People are in one company, especially in this market, people are employed by one place and then the next day they're not. And what their title is not necessarily what they actually know how to do.
Sure.
So choose well, go with your instincts. You're all human beings, you know how to socially interact. You're in a medium that promotes, speech and communication, and go with what you feel when you choose the partnership. And don't be blinded by saying, oh, I'm working with this company or this person as an SVP of something. That's not going to matter. Think about, are these the people that I'm going to trust? Are these the people I'm going to entrust?
Yeah, completely.
And that I want to see on my WhatsApp
Yeah.
50 times a week,
Exactly.
Yeah.
which is what this is.
Yeah. And it's like that line from the play, Allt sem frábært.
Yeah.
Can't remember what it's called in English. If you find a good hairdresser, hold on to them. And the same thing goes for co-producers, I think.
Yeah.
But
really cherish that.
Yeah.
for me personally, it's very important to have you, because you and me are mostly in contact, and it's very important to have somebody you can just call, and and you have any doubts, and you're going through some phase, and things are happening, that you have some support. And you are that support at the moment.
Likewise.
This is all very new, this whole co-production and developing like this and doing regional stories of this kind and doing, period and applying to these funds, and some of these funds are brand new. So it's okay to say, we don't know what the hell we're doing, but we'll figure it out together. And I think that's very, very important. And although a lot of us here have had experience, there's a lot of other things we've never done. And it's okay to say that, and it's okay to be honest about what you know and what you don't know. Ask for help when you don't know what to do. Ask for advice, and it's okay to figure it out together.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of trust that you build
That's kind of what it's about, actually.
when working together. We have a few minutes left for some questions, if anybody has them. Please ask. We're very open. We try to be.
I don't know if we mentioned everything. What about the last picture? Maybe we can.
The last picture?
The last picture.
Yes.
Maybe we can. Yeah.
This is. Do you want to tell us where this is?
This was in Zagreb, I think. Was it in Zagreb, like Intercontinental? But I'm not sure, to be honest, about this specific picture. But yeah,
But
it
it's
was like
of
a big fashion brand. Like a lot of worldwide celebrities were wearing Sirogana sweaters. A very interesting fact, besides the fact that they were made even nowadays from Icelandic wool, like every single sweater product they made, it has the name of the knitter on it who did that. So it's a little bit like a haute couture coming from the village in Serbia. So that's interesting. You can, it's the message is also you can do anything in the world if you have a vision, if you know what you want to do. And that's why I think this story is important, because from my region comes a lot of war stories, crimes, thrillers, drama. And don't get me wrong, I like crime stories and thrillers. Personally, I watch them. But this is something, positive side.
There are no bodies in the show.
There's nobody, yeah.
No bodies,
Yeah, no.
no gun.
No animals will be. Yeah.
And I think that kind of drew us all to it, to hear that.
It's very local, but you can relate to the story no matter where you come from. I think that's the most important.
And that we can hopefully finance it
Yeah.
and get it made, which is as
I'm
important
sure.
as having a good story.
And visually should be very attractive.
And hopefully, and I think just to wrap it up, we always say, people come here and they pitch stories and stories and stories, and stories are important. But I always say, look to your left, look to your right. Everybody has a wonderful story that's going to make a great series. The difference between that and actually getting it on air and making sure people watch it is, can you find an audience for it?
Sure.
Can you find a buyer? Is there a channel? Is there a way for you to finance it? Is there a way for you to execute? Can you physically produce it? Can you deliver it at that level? And also, in the end, can you market it? Can you put that great little, because in the end, we all make these decisions watching things on our phone based on a tiny little image that appeals to us. Do you have that marketing element? And this is why we kind of ended with this. Does it make you want to watch? So when you all go out after this and think about your own shows and how you're going to position them and what are the projects that you want to spend 5, 6 years on working with partners, think about all those elements, not just the story.
Absolutely.
You
And hopefully,
have to be passionate about that. I mean, still, when I'm talking about this, I have like butterflies in my stomach. And that was, I think, the first sign that I need to start developing this story.
Because you're not only going to be spending the time with the co-producers and the partners and broadcasters that you have to pick well, but you're going to be spending a lot of time with the project.
Yes.
with the project, you're going to be talking about it morning, noon, and night.
Yeah,
for
so you have
years
to
and
love
years.
it.
And you have to love it. So hopefully that was helpful for people kind of wanting to go on this journey or that are on this journey. And hopefully we'll be back next year with some dancing. Some dancing.
Oh, we'll bring it, yeah.
Tonight we're going to dance, for sure. You will see.
You'll take some of us tonight and share with us for next year. Thank you.
We did have one dancing photo.
Yeah, the designer
We
felt it wasn't
replaced
professional.
We replaced it with some other boring photo, yeah. There's so many photos of us.
We can
That's
show you
really
photos.
We'll do a collage next year of our get-togethers and Zooms.
Yeah.
And also we're fun. We're fun to be around,
Yes.
So
If you do say
We
that,
all feel that
that's
we are
another
fun.
plus for this project.
This is a fact.
This is the fact.
But thank you guys for listening.
Thank you
and
so
thank
much.
you,
Nice
thank you
to-
for being here, and hopefully we'll see you next year, and we would have lived up to what we promised. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.